my friend in my head, so I'm so excited.
Not even in your head, in real life. In real life. So first, let me tell you this. I'm so excited to meet you because a couple of years ago, well, first of all, I'm always getting teased by my friends because they always know everybody and everything that's going on like way before I do. And so they're like, do you know this person? I'm like, no. They're like, you know this person? I'm like, no. So one day I was doing the Bible app and I was doing a devotion on there. And I don't even remember what devotion it was, but I'm like, I'm doing it. And it's the first time that I had ever done a devotion that I said, who wrote this? Who's writing this? Whose voice am I hearing? So I go back and I see Priscilla Shirer. And I said, Priscilla Shirer, how come I've never heard of her before? I said, she sounds fantastic. So then I go Google you. And then I'm like, I've never seen you before. I had never heard about you, which is impossible because you're an author and minister and motivational speaker and actress and just all these things that I just had no idea. And so you instantly became like close to my heart. And I've got to find this woman. I have got to like follow this. I've got to stalk this woman. And so when I finally found you on social media, I was stalking you for a little bit. And then when you were like, oh, you had seen my book or something like in the airport.
In the airport, I was walking through the airport and saw this beautiful cover with this beautiful little girl with natural hair. And I walked over and I was like, oh, this is Grace from Empire. So then I sat there right there and was looking through the book and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing that she's done this for young little Black girls that need to know how lovely they are.
Oh, thank you. But I freaked out when you tagged me. I was like, oh my God, Priscilla Shirer knows who I am. Like I freaked out. So I'm so happy to be sitting and sipping with you.
Yes.
I know that you and I could probably talk for like hours. So I tried to like keep the questions short.
It's okay. I love this.
Chat more. But this is going to be the first of many times that we sit down together. So
I hope so.
So I want to talk to you about, we're going to dive right in. So 2020 was definitely the year that probably no one wants to talk about anymore. Right. And we all kind of want to like leave behind, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because I think it was probably the first year that the world as a collective has completely experienced loss and grief and heartbreak, and I don't think there has been a family that has been excluded from that. I know even for us, my husband, he lost his grandmother around the holiday, and I know that you have experienced a few personal losses of your own. Yeah. So for people who are still who are walking into 2021 and they're saying, how do I navigate this, right? Because I think we were all kind of waiting for 2021 to be like, okay, 2021's coming, we're gonna leave this behind, blah, blah, blah. But healing doesn't really work like that, right? So healing is cyclical. It's not linear. And so what do we do in those moments? What can you offer from just your own experiences about just navigating that loss and grief?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is interesting that you say that because everybody was looking forward to January 1st. And it's like, this is just the next day. The number changes in the year, but it's the next day. And as we all saw, the year has already brought with it traumas of its own, that collectively here in the States, at least, we've all experienced. And so I feel like the sort of what will be helpful to all of us is not to try to leave 2020 behind necessarily, but to continue to look back at it, to glance at it, not focus on it, but to keep glancing back on it. And any times that we've had that have been hard in our lives, we look back enough to glean from it what it is that we've learned, to glean from it and take from it, how did it build my character? How did it reshape my priorities? How is my perspective supposed to be different so that my future is shaped differently because I'm different going into it? All the losses that we've faced, the hardship that we've had, the trauma we've endured, the way our hearts have been broken, or the joys that we experienced, the way our calendars have all been reshaped. All of that, we're not supposed to leave that behind. We're supposed to go, okay, let me take with this the compassion and tenderness that grief gave me, so that now when I run into somebody that's in that same situation I was in, I can relate to them with a tenderness I wouldn't have been able to relate to them with if 2020 didn't happen, or the way my calendar's been remolded. Well, I don't want to just go back to the way things were. Maybe there are some things that 2020 shaved off of my calendar and off of my to-do list that honestly, I don't need to bring back. That's baggage that was too weighty for me. So if our griefs can become our teacher, if our hardships can become our teacher for the future, then we've actually gotten some value out of the things that we've been through. And that's what I think 2020 and any griefs that we experienced in the past, that's what I think it does for us.
That's so good. And you know what? This is like a little sub question. Well, first, I got my little tea. Okay, you got your little coffee?
I'm a little coffee girl.
Okay, decorative mugs. I love it. So
somebody just gave me that one and I was like, oh, that's cute.
I love that. Are those birds?
It's like little flowers and
flowers.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like joyful.
That's right.
That's what we need. Mine is just a, you know what? Mine are flowers too.
There you go. We're on the same page. I see a few birds in there as well, I think.
So I just wanted to, as we're sipping, I just wanted to kind of play off of that a little bit. So, you know, for me, 2020 definitely was a difficult year, but it was really difficult on my mental health. And so I went through, I'm still kind of in that period. I'm kind of coming out a little bit, but I went through a period where I was like, I want to disconnect entirely from the world, be in my bubble, try to take care of me. And it's hard to come back out of that.
It is.
It's difficult. So, but I don't think that's what any kind of grief or loss is meant to do to anybody, is to put them in their hole and keep them in there. So what would you say? I mean, I don't know, maybe there are other people who feel like I do, right? And who's just like, kind of like on the sidelines, like, I don't know if I want to come back out. I don't know if I want to work with people again. What would you say to people like me who need to, kind of understand that we all have this light and we all have something that we're meant to share with the world, and how do we not hide our light under a bushel kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, let me just say two things. First of all, I can relate to that because even as the world is starting to open back up a little bit, and maybe folks are asking me to come back again to speak in front of groups and that sort of thing, I'm kind of like, ooh, wait a minute. I'm okay just doing this online right now, and just like you said, staying in the bubble with my kids and my husband, and sort of just carving ourselves away. That there's safety in that, so I get that feeling. But the second thing I wanted to say to you is, despite the way you may have been feeling over this past year, Grace, one thing that I've actually admired about you is that even from your cocoon there, you have been doing things to bring yourself joy and to bring other people joy. And I've watched you do it. On your page, you'll have these hilarious Kevin Hart voiceover thingies that you've been doing, just to make yourself laugh and make other people laugh. And then you've gotten on your piano and you've sung these beautiful songs that are just to encourage others and lift them up, and yourself at the same time. So to me, there's a healthy balance in saying, okay, you know what, here's what's actually soothing to me right now to deal with the issues that I'm facing in my personal life, but also that we are all collectively experiencing. And if cocooning away, not in an unhealthy isolation, which of course, isolation can breed despair and discouragement and those sorts of things. But if there's a healthy seclusion that your soul needs, but at the same time, you're able to do what I feel like you've done so well, which is balance it with just opportunities for levity and joy and fun for yourself and the people that are in your sphere, whether on social media or in your close circle. I feel like there's a beauty to that kind of a balance. And that's one of the things, honestly, I've sort of from afar just celebrated you doing, at least on social media. I've watched you do that and thought it's been spectacular.
Oh, Oh, I appreciate that, Priscilla. I do. And I hope that people who are watching this, if anybody has been feeling that way, to like allow themselves the permission to do
Yeah,
it.
I love that. Allow your, like, we give so much grace to everybody else except us. We let other people, right? We let other people have the grace they need. And when they tell us their problems, we say, girl, you're going to be okay. This is only a season. Relax, girl, take a nap, enjoy yourself, go shopping. We do all that and give other people a pass. But when we need a nap, when we need rest, when we need to say no to outside responsibilities, when we just need to sit down with a cup of coffee and breathe deeply, we are guilty. We're afraid we're going to miss opportunities. We're stressing ourselves out because we won't allow ourselves an opportunity to just be and say, you know what, I'm okay, not hustling and grinding and being productive right now. I just need a moment to collect myself. We'll give other people that grace and we won't give it to ourselves. And we have to change that narrative, I think.
We do. What's one way? None of these questions were on the list, by the way. We're just going.
I love it.
What's one way that you would say is a great way to start to learn how to give grace to yourself?
Well, I would say to look at, this is one thing I did and still continue to do. I talk to the Lord about what his priorities for me are in a particular season, because it changes from one season to the next. My kids grow up, as soon as we get a rhythm this year, well, they're going to be a year older, and next year the rhythm will be completely different. The dynamics between me and my husband, we've been married going on 22 years. Those dynamics change, or ministry responsibilities change, or whatever. So I'm constantly going to the Lord and saying, okay, Lord, I don't know about the rest of my life, but for this next semester that we've got stretched out in front of us, what does it look like, Father, to align my priorities so that you are honored, and so that the people that matter most to me are honored in the way I'm spending my time, my talents, my resources, my energy. And then as I begin to see those priorities take shape, as God brings clarity to me, like right now, for example, it's my oldest son's senior year. Well, I don't want to be ripping and running and gone all the time and traveling and trying to balance a bunch of heavy weighted projects along with just being at my son's senior events and celebrating him and helping him with college stuff. So as it becomes clear to me, that's my priority this year, this graduating senior that I have, what I do then is say, okay, Holy Spirit, give me enough courage to say the no's that I need to say, so that I can say yes to all the things that it's clear the Lord is asking me to prioritize. So I literally make it a matter of prayer. God, give me enough courage by your Spirit to say no, to know I'm not missing anything, to know that there's no fear, no guilt about just declining, so that I can have enough energy and time and patience for all of the things you've asked me to invest myself in. So the bottom line answer to your question is I just ask the Lord to give me enough courage to say no, so that I can have room for all the yeses that will give me opportunity to say yes to.
That's good. Oh, that's really good. Okay, so we just quickly talked about joy. We talked about grace. I want to touch a little bit on gratitude, right? As we're moving into this new year, I think, and especially a lot of people that I've spoken to, there's this concerted effort to really want to say, okay, 2020 kind of took us by surprise. And there were a lot of things that I may have taken, for granted during that time. I don't want to take for granted anything else. I want to be present. I want to be grateful for what I have. Can you speak a little bit about the power of gratitude?
Yes.
And just your entire thought process on that.
That's right. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It causes you to see things in a way you didn't see them before you took the time to say, thank you. Thank you for what I do have. I may not have A, B, C, and D. I'll talk about that in a minute. But before I get to that, even in conversation with the Lord, before I make my requests, I want to approach you with so much gratitude about all of the things that I do have access to, that you've given me the privilege to enjoy, that I have been able to work for, and you've given me the energy or the talent or the gift or whatever, the connections to be able to work for and achieve. Thank you for all that. So before I ever get to the things I still want and need, it's not that I'm ignoring those or denying that I still have those requests or needs. It just means before I get there, I want to have a perspective that recognizes the goodness of God in my life, that recognizes how bountiful He has made my life. And it puts a smile on your face, even while you know good and well you still got stuff that you need to deal with over here on this side of your life. It puts a smile on your face and gives you perspective. That's why, the Apostle Paul wrote in Philippians, he said, make your requests known with thanksgiving. That's the key right there. It's not that you deny you have things that you need. It's that you lace every prayer, every conversation with which you are recognizing, in which you're recognizing those needs that you have. You just lace it with gratitude because it shifts your perspective. So I don't do this every day, but a lot of days when I'm just spending a few quiet moments, whether in the morning or whenever I get to it during the day, I have this ongoing journal. And again, I'm not like a serious journal. I admire those people that do it all the time, every day. But when I get to it, I will write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And it could be as small as, man, my husband put gas in the car for me yesterday. So now today I can just drive off because there's gas in the car. Or the incredible coffee that I'm drinking this morning. So it's not like monumental things. It's just things that honestly are so regular to us, just like breathing, that we forget that actually this right here, a warm cup of coffee and talking on Zoom to a friend, this right here is a privilege. Some people wish that they could sit still for an hour in the morning and talk to someone and have a cup of coffee while they do it. But their life circumstances haven't allowed them to be able to have those pauses in the day. Or a husband that cares enough to put gas in their car and take care of them. So when we pause and write it down, it makes me march into my day with all of the hiccups and distractions and discouragements and whatever that are going to come. It helps me to go in with a perspective that says, you know what? Thank you, Lord, because you have already been so good.
I love that. That's good. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
I love that. Love it. So, okay. So you just mentioned your wonderful husband. You guys have been almost married for 22 years. So you celebrated your 21st anniversary.
Yes, unbelievably.
And in the middle of like quarantine and oh my goodness gracious.
We made it. It's a miracle. We made it.
Okay. Because it's like 24/7.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about, I'm sure people have said like, what's the secret, da, 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 da. So, I mean, if you want to talk about what you feel is like the real, factors to why you guys have been together this whole time, I want to hear that. And I also want to hear what's one of the biggest unpredictable surprises that you have experienced in your marriage. Like you got married, you lived life, and you said, oh, I didn't realize that this is something that I would have to contend with, deal with, face, challenge during this time of marriage.
Ooh, that's a good question. Come on here, Grace, with the questions. Sure.
I'm trying to find out. Come on now, give me them jams.
I know. How long have you guys been married now?
We're going on 5 years.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's a big feat to make it 5 years these days.
Oh, well, I will take that. Yes.
A lot of folks are getting a year in and going, wait a minute, never mind. I didn't know this was going to be so much work.
Yes, and I do know a lot of people still out there who are looking to, to get married, to have a long-term relationship, and they want to be with the love of their life. They want to be with that one. They don't want to end a relationship in a year or two. So I think that's part of the reason why I'm also asking this question.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer your second question first, which was about what has surprised me. And I think one of the things that surprised me is that, you don't know how you're going to navigate something until you get to it and you're navigating it. There's some things you can't have forethought regarding. And I've seen that mostly with the raising of our boys. So we have 3 sons. My oldest is 18 and then 16. And then my 12-year-old is getting ready to be a teenager as well, coming up here soon. And Jerry and I have very different views about certain things. Not major anchor foundational life things and things regarding spirituality, but just the dynamic of the culture of our home or the day, the way the kids spend their hours during the day. Because I'm one of those mamas that's like, you're not going to play these video games all day. You're going to sit here and read this book is what you're going to do. You know? And my husband is like, oh no, that's a great way to wind down. They need to be able to, spend the evening playing some video games and all that. And I'm like, no, they don't. They don't. They need to read this here book is what they need to do. So, there are a lot of
back home too that's very similar where we say, oh, you better study your books the way you study in that video game or you study in this or that or the other thing. So yes, I love
that. I love that. Oh my goodness. So as those disparities have come up, or I grew up in a family dynamic where we spent a lot of time together as a family, like playing Uno. My parents wouldn't let us watch TV unless we were watching The Cosby Show and A Different World on Thursday.
Right.
Outside of that hour during the week, we couldn't watch TV. On the weekends we could, but not during the week. So that leaves a lot of hours of boredom, which is awesome. Boredom is such a great gift. You don't appreciate it in the moment, but looking back, you realize that all your imagination was firing off because you were bored. So to me, there's a beauty in boredom that creates these organic opportunities for the Uno cards to come out, for us to have family talent show, all that stuff. Well, now with everybody's devices in their hands and everybody being able to just sort of numb your boredom away by just scrolling through and doing your thing. I am looking for those opportunities because it's the way I was raised, where I go, everybody's turning everything off and we're just going to be in this room together. You can help make dinner and do all that stuff. Well, my husband grew up with a very different dynamic. He was the youngest in a single parent home. And while his mother was off trying to make every dollar she could, she was working for tips at a grocery store to keep food on the table for her 3 children. And the oldest 2 had to get a job, when they were about 16 years old, they had to start working to help the family. So my husband was at home and there was no family time. They didn't have time for that. They were taking care of each other and loving each other in very practical ways that didn't include Uno and we all sitting around the table together and all that stuff. So for him, that idea of prioritizing levity and us just sitting around together isn't necessarily the way that he sees a family dynamic because he didn't grow up in that way. So again, it's not that his way or my way is right or wrong. It's that it's different. So you don't know until you get into the scenario like we're in now, where I've got, teenagers and the teenagers already don't want to be with their parents.
Right.
So if we don't sort of make that happen, then it won't organically happen. You kind of have to say, guys, come on, everybody put your phones in this basket right here. And we're going to, go outside and throw the football, or we're going to play Uno together or whatever. My husband has very kindly gotten on board with me for 2 or 3 things that are a priority for me. And then I've had to get on board with him for some dynamics that actually, again, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of, it's just different. And this is the way that he sees this going. And so I've had to relax some of this is the way I want it to be, my expectations, and just said, okay, I want to honor you as a husband, as a father, and just kind of relax some of those expectations so that we can just enjoy the dynamic that we have. So that was a really long answer to answer that question. But that's been one of the surprises of marriage, is that you kind of think you're on the same page about everything until you're not. And then you're like, wait a minute,
yeah.
Who are you?
Right. No, it's true. No, and I'm glad for the response because, Trey and I have had to deal with the same thing, like, with our pup. I mean, we don't have children yet, but taking care of another living being, we have very different ideas as to how, that should be done. And a big thing too, is that not just with raising children or a pup but just like looking when another element is introduced into the marriage, it's this idea, whether it's, again, living children, living pup, or something just like a topic or a new job or something like that. When something else has been introduced to that marriage, it's like we both have differing opinions to this because of the way that we were raised. And so how do we come on the same page and compromise there? Yeah.
That's right. And you can either, this is what I've decided. It's like, I can either maintain my expectation and force the family dynamic to fit that expectation. And my children remember mom as being frustrated and rigid and narrow and wanting things to be her way. Or I can adjust my expectation to what my reality actually is. And then even though everything is not the way that I would prefer it to be, my children remember that mom was relaxed. She enjoyed the reality. And I would just rather my kids remember that I wasn't frustrated all the time. And that has meant that I've had to relinquish control and to release my daily life and reality to the Lord and say, Lord, you knew the man that I was going to marry. You knew the dynamic of the children that I was going to have. You knew the reality of our life. So Lord, I give it to you, and all the places where I wish it were different, I release that to you too, because I know he's going to produce something out of what is, the likes of which I can't even imagine if I'll just take my hands off of it, stop trying to be God, and let him just do his job.
Yes. And how did y'all do it for 21 years? Tell the people. Tell the people. They want to know.
This is going to sound so elementary and small, but I have found that it is, oh my gosh, the biggest thing that has sustained us in marriage. Kindness. I did not even realize before I got married how important that characteristic was going to be in a mate. I wanted him to be tall, dark, and handsome. I wanted him to have a great job. I wanted him to love the Lord. I wanted him to have integrity. I had all these things that were important to me. I don't know that just being plain old, flat out kind was something that I had ever really thought about in concrete terms like that. Meaning someone who is thoughtful and considerate and that cares enough about you to just do things that make your day special. Kindness. And I'm married to a guy, oh my gosh, this guy, he tries to figure out ways to just make my day special. If that means that before I get up, he turns on the fireplace in the living room because he knows when I walk out there, I'm going to want to sit there in front of the fireplace and just spend a few moments of quiet before the kids get up. He just turns the fireplace on, or filling up my tank with gas. It's not the big romantic gestures. When you're living with somebody for 22 years, it's somebody who's just thoughtful. Your clothes are in the washer. You didn't have time to put them in the dryer, and they are passing by and notice and take those wet clothes out and put them in the dryer for you. It's so amazing when the regular stuff of life, you're doing it with somebody who's thoughtful and considerate. So I would say that for single women that are looking toward the men that are potential mates for you. But I would also say that we need to consider that about ourselves. Are we kind and considerate? Or are we so self-focused and self-interested and everything is about me, that we're not going to be able to actually be good spouses either, because we have to give the kindness that we want to receive. I don't know that I'm as good as doing that as my husband is. He's just a considerate person. So I have to work to kind of keep up with him and think forward. How could I just be a blessing to my husband today and do something that's going to put a smile on his face or make his day easier?
Oh my gosh, that's so good, because Jerry and Trey need to meet, because they are almost the same person. You know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness, so many similarities that you were, describing here now. And I was, and just the dynamic of kindness. So there's an example that I have not too long ago. I was working on, my tardiness, working on my lateness. And, and Trey knew that that's something I was working on. So here I am rushing around. I have to leave the house. And I always love my cup of tea in the morning. And so I'm like making my tea and I got everything in my hands. And Trey continues to say, baby, if I can help you, let me know if I can help. And I'm like, no, I got it. So I got everything and I'm rushing out. And all of a sudden, like, he's in the kitchen, I'm in the bedroom, and I spill the tea on me and on the floor, and it's burning hot. And I go, ah, right from the room. And he goes, you okay? I'm like, yes. Spill the tea? Yes. Is it on the floor? Yes. I'm coming, babe. So he literally, like, he just knew what happened. He comes and he cleans me up and he grabs my stuff. He's like, let me help you, takes us up to the car. And he's like, you'll be okay. Don't speed, and just the kindest person. But it definitely, like what you're saying makes sense. Like, it makes you think, like, there are all these ways that, other people in our lives, whether it's our husbands or our significant others, or even our friends, are really kind and extend that kindness to us. And are there ways that we can reciprocate that? For sure.
That's exactly right. It matters. It really does.
I don't know how much time I have with you.
Oh, you're good.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not even paying attention to the time. Okay. Tell me, you are about to do this Faith and Fire Elijah series, right? Yes. So I want you to tell me a little bit about that series, who it's for, who your target audience is, and why Elijah.
Well, let's see. I've been in ministry in some. Did you hear that? Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Our phones and our computers are doing their thing. Don't even worry about it. We worry about it.
I've been in ministry for about 25 years now, which is unbelievable. And the primary audience that over the years I just have seen that the Lord has entrusted to us in ministry is women. And it's always been a broad range of women from every age and demographic and denomination and race. And it's been a privilege to be able to direct most of the books and Bible studies to that demographic. So the Bible study is primarily for women. Some of them like to gather in groups, in Bible study groups at churches, or their friends in a living room, and or individuals, and do these Bible study series together. I chose Elijah because about, honestly, 6 years ago, just his story came to life to me again. I knew about the prophet Elijah, had heard about him, knew the highlights of his story. But as I was looking through the few chapters that he's mentioned in the Old Testament, I just saw with like a fresh vision. You know how sometimes you're reading a Bible verse you've seen a million times before, but all of a sudden it's like the Holy Spirit has taken out a divine highlighter. And there are some things that just leap off the page, or they seem to have a spotlight on them. And that was what happened with Elijah. Everybody knows the Mount Carmel part, where he stands on Mount Carmel. He's standing there alone, and he's got boldness and courage, and he calls down fire from heaven, and God demonstrates his power. That's kind of like the climax of the story. But I was drawn to all of the things that came before he ever got to this public platform on Mount Carmel. The hard things he went through, the isolation he had to endure, the difficult prayers he had to pray. I was drawn to the way the Lord fortified his faith and fortified his prayer life. And I thought to myself, everybody wants Mount Carmel without all of the things that come before it that make you capable and able and fortified and strong enough to be able to stand flat-footed when you're in a position where nobody's applauding you, nobody is coming along with you, nobody appreciates you, but you're still willing to stand there for truth and be unapologetic about what it is that you believe and who your God is. In order to have that kind of faith, then I have to be willing to go through what Elijah went through to get what Elijah got. That's what drew me to it. I was like, man, what did the Lord take this man through that made him this courageous and this bold? I started thinking about that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then there were other projects that took precedent. And then in the past 2 years, we've had so many family crises that it was delayed even more. But I can kind of see now that it's coming out here in January 2021, I can see why the Lord would allow the delay. Because if there was ever a time where we're going to have to be unapologetic, because It might not necessarily be politically correct or applauded or appreciated. Right now, when we have cancel culture all around us, that if you're not going along with the crowd, you might be just smeared and canceled. If we're going to have any kind of backbone, and if we ever needed it in history before, that time is right now. So I'm hoping that folks that go through this study see in Elijah not an exception to the rule, but an example of what can happen when someone allows God to take them through the processes that fortify their faith and build their character so that they can have some backbone in the face of adversity.
That's so good. And this really applies to everyone, not just anyone, everyone, because of the fact that we all have Mount Carmels in our life, like that we're looking for, right? So we all have like these goals and these epitomes of ideas that we're like, if everything could go my way, this is what my life would look like. This is what I would want or want to have. And then what's even more interesting is that there are a lot of people in life that we see sometimes that get to that place. And we think to ourselves, well, how come they got it and I didn't get it? There's all of us do that in different ways. I think a great way to take yourself out of that idea of competition and seeing that someone else is there is to do a series like this, to do a study like this, to say, this is their Mount Carmel. I have my Mount Carmel. What can I do? And what do I need to prepare in order to get to where, not just where I want to go, but where God wants me to go? And I don't know what they've done to be prepared to be able to be in that position. So why not celebrate them in this position and say, hey, you getting to this position likely means that you have been prepared to be able to assume that position in that space. So that's really good.
Oh my gosh, you said a whole word right there, because we can look at people just in bite-sized pieces on social media and we have no idea what the backstory is. We have no idea what that person has endured, the hardship they've been through, the prayers they've prayed, the tears they've cried. And we just want this snapshot that is perfectly lit on social media, but we don't necessarily want to go through what they went through to be able to have that particular moment. And so you're right. If we don't train ourselves to celebrate others, to admire others, and to understand that whatever they went through to get there has given them the kind of fortification that is required to sustain them under that spotlight. Because if you get a spotlight that you are not prepared for, that spotlight you were craving will burn you to a crisp. So you don't want that thing early. Because if it gets on you early, you're going to pay dearly for that which you are really not prepared yet.
That is so good. That is so good. When does the series start?
So it came out January 4th, which means it's there and available for whoever wants to do it whenever they want to do it. In mid-February, I'm going to be leading sort of a global group of women who are signing up from all over the world, which is what makes that fun. So we're doing it together starting in February, but it's available to anybody, anytime, to do at whatever their own pace is and whenever they choose to.
Awesome. And if people wanted to do it with you, you said mid-February. So that's February.
About 15th, I think, is the day that we start.
Okay, perfect. And I make sure that I include that link for people who may want to join you in that.
Okay.
I also love that if people want to do it in their own time.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Absolutely. And it's set up where you can either do it just yourself, or you could say, hey, bunch of girlfriends, let's get together and we can do it all together. It's about 5 days of work, sort of devotional during the week that helps you to explore and study the Word of God in regards to that week of study. And then I do a teaching on video that launches you into the next week. And so it's 7 weeks in total. And it just allows you to walk through the story of Elijah and glean from it what it is that the Lord wants to teach you and encourage you in.
It's so good to start off the year with that. I think that's something we all need. And it's so funny because I was telling you that my sister-in-law reached out to me. She's like, do you want to do this? I was like, yes. She was like, the whole that whole side of our family is getting together and they're doing it. And
That's
so
amazing.
so excited. And so I can't wait to report back just like the
Oh,
things that God is doing. So thank
tell
you.
them I said, hey, y'all.
I will. I certainly will. I will.
That's
Priscilla,
amazing.
I could keep you here forever, but I'm not going to because you're a very busy person. But I
Love you.
thank you enough for sitting and sipping with me. Thank you so much for the gems that you dropped. I hope that one day we can do this again.
Yes, I
Maybe
can't
another
wait.
sit and sip, or just you and I. Maybe I would love that. And like I do in every one of my sit and sips, before you go, I just want to honor you. I want to bless you. I want to lift you up. I want to speak life into your life. I want to speak success and victory and beauty and blessings. Thank you for all that you're doing. I know that I am not the only person that is just so moved and so inspired and so motivated by you. Clearly, you are walking in your purpose. And in doing so, you are reaching multitudes of people right in the public and also very much in the quiet of their hearts in like small moments and small times. So, thank you so much for being obedient and following your purpose and doing all that you're doing to encourage all of us. Because I know you surely do that with me. So thank you. I lift you up and I honor you today.
Oh, thank you, Grace. I appreciate you so much.
Yay. All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next Sit and Sip. Bye.